Jesus Christ, not again.
Hi, I'm Johnny. This is Johnny Likes, the show where I talk about movies that I like. Today I'm talking about an odd sequel to a sequel that might also be a reboot. I don't know. Today, Johnny Likes Return of the Living Dead Part 2. So a couple of rotten kids drag a not-so-rotten kid to a mausoleum. One thing leads to another, and they stumble across a canister of trioxin 245, the chemical responsible for reanimating the dead. The main rotten kid ends up inadvertently opening up the canister and releasing the toxin, and once again raising the dead. So if the first film in this series was made for jaded teenagers, then this is the safer version made for their younger siblings. This one for sure I haven't seen since I was a young teen or tween. I don't have any recollection of any of the scenes or the plot. I probably have no memory of the film because it's not a very memorable film. Unless it was like your first horror movie and it traumatized you, there's just not all that much to cling on to here. The most notable thing about the film is the inexplicable return of two actors from Return of the Living Dead. Both James Karen and Thom Mathews are back. They're playing different characters, but they're not even all that different. In this one, Karen is playing an old grave robber, showing Mathews the ropes on his first day. They even have mostly the same dynamic as they did in the first film.
I bet that girlfriend of yours would sure like this. Huh? Huh?
So I thought this was kind of a cool idea to have these actors show up again. If this one had been more successful and they had done a few more of these, that would have been kind of like a neat calling card to just keep on having these same actors show up in different roles. Since that didn't happen, it just comes off as like an odd choice. So this film leaned much heavier into lighthearted comedy and sight gags than the first one did. The horror and gore was still present in this, but it was much more in the vein of like the Thriller music video than it was of anything else. And like speaking of Thriller, they even did like a nod to it where at the end there's a zombie dressed in a Michael Jackson-esque red leather outfit. And I would say the tone shift from the first Return of the Living Dead to this one was fairly severe. It was kind of like going from the first A Nightmare on Elm Street to like Freddy's Dead, the sixth one. In other words, there was just a much heavier emphasis on humor than genuine terror.
Get that damn screwdriver out of my head!
I did enjoy this film, but I didn't love it. It was a lot of fun watching Mathews and Karen return and further develop their chemistry on screen. I enjoyed the kids banding together and kind of collecting adults as they went along.
Oh, it's you. Why aren't you out playing in the traffic? How'd you get in here? What seems to be the problem?
Where are the keys to your car?
Why, are we going somewhere? Oh, I'm sorry, my boy, but this car is cherry. No one drives the princess but me.
Overall, I liked the special effects. Although some of the zombies in the graveyard obviously had like over-the-counter Halloween masks that had just been slightly modified, and it really showed. The zombie who gets shot in half in the hospital was pretty graphic. And it was well done. And it also kind of reminded me of the half-woman in the first Return of the Living Dead. It seemed like kind of a nod to that film. Now, I don't think they ever mentioned the events that happen in Return, so I'm not sure if this film is even like supposed to be a direct sequel or if it's supposed to be a reboot or what. I don't know where it fits in the chronology. As I kind of mentioned earlier, this film seems aimed at a slightly different audience than the first Return movie. This one seems much more appropriate for younger teens or those who scare easily. And in that respect, it's actually a pretty good gateway horror film. It's scary and gory enough to easily classify as a horror film, but it leans into the comedy aspect of the genre much more than the terror side. So those non-horror buffs might be able to watch this without feeling too alienated. Horror fans will find much to enjoy in the film, but if they're anything like me, they won't have all that much to really latch onto, as most of the stuff has been done before and better. So you might have like an okay time, but pretty much everything about it will be forgotten within a few days. That was at least my impression of the film. I'm going to give this a 3 out of 5. It's an adequate zombie film. It's got some likable characters and performances. The acting's overall pretty good. There's no standouts. Everyone gets kind of a passing grade. It's got some mostly good makeup and zombie effects, with the standout being the zombie getting blown in half in the hospital that I mentioned earlier. It's kind of like the equivalent of above average fast food. It's nothing new or unexpected, but if you're in the right mood and craving it, it can really hit the spot. So some other gateway horror of and around the time. I'd say Monster Squad, Poltergeist, and Arachnophobia. So what did you guys think of Return of the Living Dead Part 2? And what do you want to hear me talk about next? Let me know in the comments, and if you could do me one more favor and like and subscribe, that would be outstanding. It's quick, free, and relatively painless, plus it really helps me out. Thanks for watching me talk about movies for a little while, and you can tune in next time to see what else Johnny likes. It's gonna be Return of the Living Dead Part 3.